Welcome into the Gridiron Minds podcast. I am your host, Jordan Vanek. As always, I'm joined by Jeff DiMatteo. Jeff, I'm sorry your Iowa State couldn't come through for you when it mattered the most. I had to bring it up, buddy. Didn't talk about it pre-show, but I just had to hit you with it as soon as we started.
Man, I knew you were holding that too. We've been sitting here chit-chatting for like 30 minutes and you just casually kept that under your hat. That's a good friend right there.
Hey, man, I can say I was beyond frustrated watching your backup quarterback sail that pass to Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins is a good player, decent prospect, not a special one, but definitely got some good size. And speaking of receivers, that's what we're going to start off the show with for this weekend. I wish I could say I was super excited. I don't. We talked a little bit pre-show, but it feels like this class is like Mcmillan is in the stratosphere of what we want for a rookie receiver. After that, it's a lot of guys that have to go to the right spot or have to, be in a position where they're getting crazy volume. And instead of just being naturally a really good player, is that kind of how you feel about this class?
I think so. We've been blessed the last few years with some really talented classes. This year, it's very top heavy. There's a lot of interesting players. But yeah, I think once it's past Tet, Ibuka, Burden, for me, I'm kind of like, these are some good, but maybe not great players. And once we get through the 26 and 27 classes, most of the guys in this 25 class aren't going to really be relevant. They're just going to end up getting lost in the wash.
No, for sure. But speaking of Tet, let's start with there. It's top guy in the class, obviously. There's a lot to love about him with his frame or his length, not necessarily his frame, something that I think he needs to fill out a little bit, but really, really smooth player, really good on his breaks, really good at making the contested catches. I saw a stat that someone posted yesterday about how he has most of his catches being contested, and people fail to watch an Arizona game because it's going to be contested when he's never not bracketed.
Right.
And his quarterback's 5'6", and half the time when it breaks down, he just throws it up. Like, this isn't, Tet to me feels like Mike Evans. That's not necessarily as dominant from a long speed but just purely he's on the boundary. He's 101. He's huge. He's bigger than the corner. He will bully the corner, but he just makes these big plays, whether it's contested, whether it's just open. But yeah, it's like if Mike Evans isn't playing with Chris Godwin like he is right now, and he's probably going to get doubled every game for the rest of the year. If you're a good team, you're probably going to stop Mike Evans. But Tet, it's tough in college where it's bad quarterback play, man. Like Noah Fafita is not it, and it's just a bad spot.
There's, the only thing that you didn't mention here for Tet is that he has outstanding body control. There's a bunch of plays, and I want to say it was against Arizona State specifically, where even a couple of catches that ended up being ruled incomplete, his ability to get to the football and then get his toes in and around being inbounds were next level. The guy is like superhuman that way. Plastic Man is kind of where I'm at. The guy's like a comic book character here. I actually you said Mike Evans. I kind of viewed him as like, I like the Mike Evans comp, but he's got a lot of D-Hop in him too. I think D-Hop had better body control than Evans. And so, another kind of tough guy, dominant perimeter receiver that can do a lot. I'd be interested to see how a team uses him on more in-breaking stuff, really use that size to create a big target in the middle of the field, as opposed to just taking him down the sideline and keeping him out on the boundary. But yeah, he's definitely the receiver one in this class. If we put him in last year's super talented class, he's still probably behind Harrison and Neighbors, right? Like that's probably where I have him.
I think you would have been able to, like, for me, I had Harrison in a class of his own with Neighbors and Rome really close. I think he was with Rome Neighbors for me. Knowing what I know now from Neighbors, seeing it at the NFL level, yeah, he's Neighbors is with Marv, and I would put Tet with Rome. Like, if someone offered me Tet or, Rome Odunze for Tet McMillan, I'd probably lean the Tet side, but I think it would depend on who Chicago brings in and where Tet ends up getting drafted. Because selfishly, as a Panthers fan, I would love to pair him with or Xavier Legette, those two, I think, would blend really well from, with Bryce Young. First off, Tet is used to playing with a smaller quarterback, understands how, when, where, that small quarterback could see the throwing lanes were there, like how to break in his routes, understanding where the ball placement is, and Xavier Legette would get to be the two, which is what he's suited to be in the NFL, and he could be a very, very good one down the road. But past Tet, wide receiver 2 to like 6, 7 feel similar. I mean, I think Tet is the only guy I would put in the top 10. And after that, I don't think I'm taking a receiver until the 20s. And I would take Luther Burden in the 20s just because, for me, he's got the raw skill set. Just, you got to look past this year's film. It's tough. It's a tough watch for Missouri this year, and it really wasn't his fault. What are your thoughts on Luther Burden, who gets the Debo comp too much?
So here's the thing. I'm not through his 24 film yet. So I know what I've seen on broadcast view. I don't apply that to my grade. So let's start there. I see a guy who last year was tremendously talented, and I saw a guy outstanding after the catch, fantastic getting in and out of routes. It seems like he's always open. There's no reason not to just pepper him with 30 targets a week. But, I don't know based on broadcast view what I've seen this year. It seems like he just kind of has been erased. And it makes me wonder, was last year a flash in the pan? I'll be interested to get into the All-22. We'll cover him a little tighter once we get into the offseason. But the guy's got great traits, all the things you look for an inside-outside receiver where he can kind of move around the formation for you. I like the talent. I'm willing to gamble on it. I might be a bigger fan of Igbuka right now. And this is the piece that I think gets missed, is that he's really mentally tough. That's a guy that's had to play behind a lot of phenomenal players. He's hung in there. A lot of other dudes left, transferred out of Ohio State. Jameson Williams is probably the most notable guy, but he's hung in there. He's battled through drops. He's battled through playing behind other, really superior top end talents. And that guy is still hung in there, and he has performed well every single season. Same, I think it was his freshman year. He had a battle with the dropsies a little bit, but he's been great otherwise. Is he a first round receiver? Is he a guy that I'm going to say, oh yeah, he's an alpha dog? I think for dynasty purposes, this is his ceiling's probably a mid-low end 2, right? Wide receiver 2 type of a player, but he's got to be in the right situation. But he's a guy that I like right in there. I think he and Burden right now are interchangeable.
I think his ceiling, and this is complete ceiling, is Chris Godwin.
Ooh, okay. I love that comp.
The guy that dominates the slot, gets a ton of targets, he needs the featured volume to be that level of a player. And you don't want him. I mean, you really don't need him outside. He can run routes outside. I know everybody gets in this idea of when you say someone's a slot guy, it's a bad thing. And it's like, if you just paid attention to the NFL for 20 minutes, you'd realize you want the slot guy. When you have an elite slot player, like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Fun fact, CeeDee Lamb plays in the slot a lot. Jamar Chase has moved inside a lot this year. Those are the guys that give you the consistent week-over-week production at the receiver position. And in today's NFL, it's hard to come by with a lot of receivers falling off this year. But the receiver, like Igbuka, I agree with what you said. The receiver I love the most for development, and it's someone that I don't think should be a first-round pick. I think he's a day 2 pick. It's Alec Ayomanor, the dude from Stanford. His physique speed is unmatched. He beat Travis Hunter like a drum last year. He was constantly winning on him. He had the 300-yard game against Travis Hunter when I needed. I was winning every contest known to man at that time. Very happy. And then he had 280 yards in a quarter and a half. And he was doing it against any single receiver for our corner in Colorado. But in general, he's done it multiple times throughout his career. Bad quarterback play, bad team, hard to see it. But the only thing that I would say I'm worried about, and it's something I don't love to hear when I say I'm worried about someone, is the hit, the fluidity. Can you get in and out of breaks at a high level, especially on the comebacks? If you look at Rasul Douglas talked about it on, I think, the Pivot or something. I saw him get interviewed, and they asked him who was the hardest player you ever had to guard, and he mentioned Julio Jones. And Julio, for him, he's like, this dude would run a 25-yard comeback and he would break in 2 steps or 2 strides. And that is something that Elik Imanor does not have, which is obviously something that's a very special skill set, but is something that if he can develop even 3 steps, 4 steps, it doesn't have to be Julio, then I think he could become a well-rounded receiver and someone that, again, you develop. You do not need him year one. This class does not have many year one phenoms like we've seen with Puka, and we've seen from, obviously Marv struggled this year, but Ladd McConkey's been really good. Brian Thomas was really good for this stretch of games before his quarterback died. But like, this class doesn't really have it. Do you have anybody to mention?
There's no other receivers that I'm in love with in this class, but, we talk about these guys, and I think a piece of advice for anybody who is listening, watching, etc., is that if you get to a point where if you're saying second round of your rookie draft and you're looking at a guy like, Emanor here, would you trade this pick if you could get back like an underperforming rookie like an AD Mitchell or something like that? Someone he's open, he's there. Someone's just got to throw him the football. Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
I would take AD Mitchell over Elik. I'm not taking AD Mitchell over Luther, or depending on where Egbuka goes. There's a lot to go. The one thing I love about the Ohio State receivers is the fact that they're getting coached by Brian Hartline. Hartline gets these guys ready for day one NFL stuff, NFL concepts. You don't see them come along as it's like they're immediately like ready to go, understanding the route depth coverages and stuff. And Egbuka's got that. Like, if Egbuka falls in the later part of the first round and ended up on a, pairing back up with Marvin Harrison, I would buy into that. Maybe Kyler might not be the perfect spot, but I think Egbuka paired with a Marv and a Trey McBride, like, he would be something that helps them tremendously as they're looking to adapt and evolve in the NFL. It's going to be an interesting draft and seeing where these guys go, but I don't think more than 3 receivers end up in the first round this year, which is not what I was saying. I thought 5 receivers were going to go in the top 15 last year. So,
well, if Travis Hunter
ends up,
so one thing we should say as a disclaimer is if Travis Hunter declares as a wide receiver, it does change the landscape a little bit because he'll still be drafted ultra high. He is just an unbelievably explosive athlete. But I think right now, for all intents and purposes, we're considering him as a corner right now, right? We're safe.
I consider him just as a flex. Like, I mean, for me, I think Travis Hunter should play 50 to 60% of routes. And he should be playing corner full time. And if you're getting blown out, if you are losing by 3 scores, he should stop taking snaps at corner, because I don't care for him as a tackler. He's not a great tackler. Like, no corner should be. I want him to, like I would probably situationally sub him in almost on like 3rd and 12 or something where it looks like a clear passing down. But like, if you're getting beat by 17, just throw him on offense. Like, and again, a smart team has to draft Travis Hunter. I'm very scared that that's not going to be the case, because the kid, he can play both ways. He can do it. Like, I know a lot of NFL guys are on this side or that side. We've never seen anything like it. And when I'm watching him play college football every single week, he just takes 100 snaps like it's nothing. Like, he never shows signs of like, I am tired. And it's insane to me. Does he get beat? Yes. Does he get locked up as a receiver? Yes. But every receiver does, and every corner does. And he does both of those at such high levels. And I hope he wins Heisman. I'm pretty sure he's a shoo-in at this point. I know a lot of people want this Ashton Genty late run and different things. Genty's phenomenal. This is something I've never seen before. I've seen great running backs. This is just not one that I've been able to get. But anything else you want to add to the receiver talk?
I think really the last note on Hunter would just be, for those of you that are old enough to remember watching Charles Woodson come out, this is what it was like. This is how exciting it was. Like, I feel that again. Now, I know you're not old enough to remember that because you were in the womb, I think, when Charles Woodson was doing this at Michigan.
Pretty much, yeah.
Trying to count down the years. But no,
yeah,
it's,
if it was 98, definitely... it was 98 Heisman year, then yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's why sure you get this. You get the seasoned vet in here.
They had Randy Moss, Peyton, Charles Woodson.
Yep, yeah. Ryan Leaf. Yep.
But
Curtis Enos was in that race, but
Jesus.
anyhow, yeah. Let's.
I don't know
Oh,
who
dude, it
that
was
is.
wild. It's all right. Fine. We don't need to pick up my gray hair anymore. But what we really should get into is, let's get into the matchups this week. I know we've got a handful of games. We had some announcements in the last day or so. Breece Hall not playing. Let's talk Jets Dolphins to get it started. Take me through it. Who you looking at for Jets
For me,
Dolphins?
it starts with Braylon Allen, which this is going to be the topic that everybody has. Like, I know Breece Hall's out and Braylon Allen's 5K. He is playable, but I don't really want to go this route because the Dolphins are a team that they come prepared and dominate the bad teams in the NFL. They are not bad against the bad teams. They can't, tie their shoes right every time they play one of the top tier teams in the NFL. Like the Packers game, they fumble the punt. They get a great stop. They fumble the punt. They go right down the field, throwing the ball with Tua every single play. They run a jet sweep to their running back and he gets blown up. Then they throw a screen, it doesn't work. Like Mike McDaniel overthinks a lot of things. He doesn't overthink against the bad teams. If you're playing Braylon Allen, the player that stands out to me, making a mini stack. Jalen Waddle is the guy that I want to play this week. He torched this team last year in Miami. There were a few route concepts that Mike McDaniel pointed out on film in the Hard Knock series, and they ended up running them, and it ended up being the big play for Waddle. Tua's played out of his mind in the last 4 weeks. Right now, Tua has the highest completion rate ever of a player. He's completing 74%. 74% of his passes are being completed right now because Tua stopped forcing so much down the field when everybody was like, dude, you need to throw downfield. And now he's checking it down. And then now it's like, dude, you check down too much. So for me, Waddle's 2%, 5,400. I'd mini it with Braylon Allen, but for the most part, I just don't like this game a lot. I think it's going to get played very slow. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, they communicate very slowly in general. It's going to slow the game down a lot, and it's a 6-point favorite for Miami. Like, Braylon Allen's not going to. I don't think Braylon Allen is capable of catching 6 to 8 passes. And you talked about it pre-show of Isaiah Davis was a guy that was catching a lot of passes. The other dude that I think gets usage similarly to that running back position, Malachi Corley. Like, I think there's enough of a reason that Braylon Allen won't be catching passes. If you're telling me he's getting 15 carries, I'm not playing him at 5K. Like, 15 carries isn't going to be enough. The Miami defense up front, like, Zealer's still really good. Elias Campbell's still really good. And the Jets are still really, really, really bad. It's kind of how I feel about this one.
So let's just think about this to how game theory wise. Excuse me, a little yawn there. The Jets are going to be chasing most of this game. Do we think it's plausible that Aaron Rodgers is going to have to put it up 45 times?
I don't think they will be able to play that many plays. They're a slow-paced team, and Miami is also a slow-paced team. And with Tua taking always these checkdowns, the ball's never hitting the ground. There's no incompletions to keep that pace up. And then, so it's like, it's one of those things where there's a lot of guys getting a lot of touches, but not enough to do big things.
Are the Jets good enough to actually make it so the Dolphins have to finish long drives? Or do we think there's a few pop plays here where Tyreek Hill could bust one off, Waddle could bust one off, and some of those 10-play drives might turn into 3-play drives?
I don't think Tyreek
We're in a league coast to toast. We got a guy trying to sell me Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. The Jets have also been they were destroying that Seattle team. Like, the Seattle team wasn't getting those big plays, and I think that not that Miami is not capable of doing it. I just don't see, like, Achane maybe could get a few, but he's 8,200, and there's better running backs around that price tag that I just don't really want to buy into it. And then they spread the ball so much where Tyreek Hill, I think, needs surgery on his wrist, so I don't think he's going to get a lot of touches, but Jonnu Smith will, Devon Achane will. They will probably give a few touches to, like, Malik Washington, Odell. They give a lot of people the ball, and it's just not enough for a DFS matchup.
That's fair. And yeah, I was kind of interested in Davis because of the $4,000 price tag. My thought was if he catches 4 passes and gets a touchdown like he did last week, that may not be terrible. And who else can I squeeze into my lineup, right? Like that was kind of where my head was at. But you're telling me it's probably not worth the ceiling of 15 to 16, maybe, on Davis, assuming he catches a handful of passes.
Yeah,
Good
there's
enough.
also a
Let's
lot of
punt the
running
Jets
backs that
Dolphins.
are. There's a lot of good running backs that we'll get to talk about in a little bit, especially ones that are a little lower priced. There's actually a backup running back I'd rather take a stab at in a few spots here.
Okay, well, Tim, we've got Atlanta, Minnesota up next. So instead of being outdoors in Miami, why don't we go inside here? I know we talked a little bit pre-show about this one. Cousins isn't exactly healthy. Where are we at with Michael Penix?
I think this is the game that ends up getting Kirk Cousins benched. I don't think Penix is going to make an appearance when it's meaningful in this one. And the reason is you just don't want to throw your rookie quarterback first start against Brian Flores. That sounds like a recipe to hurt this kid going forward when the next few games are like the Raiders, the Giants, they play the Panthers, and the Commanders. That's like the stretch of games the Falcons have after this. And when it's like, hey, we need to go win the division or be a playoff team, that's where Michael Penix just can hit a stride. I don't love anything from the Atlanta side this week. Like Kirk Cousins, I can't trust to make the big play. And if he's throwing hot and he's throwing late, Vikings defense is a very good play here because Van Ginkel and these guys, they come down on the ball and when they get turnovers, they're going for 6. And then the reality is you can easily stack the Sam Darnold and passing game. And it's just Sam Darnold, Jay Jettas, and then you pair one of Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson. Both are fairly cheap at Hawkinson's 4,300, Jordan Addison's 5,300. And for the Falcons, I don't think they have the bodies to cover all of these guys. And like, you can't travel AJ Terrell with Justin Jefferson because of how much he moves around in formations. So Darnold, passing game of the Vikings, or going to their defense is where I lean. I do not want Aaron Jones. He's fumbled way too much lately and has been awful in the goal line. I think it's just the Vikings running back thing at this point. Like I remember posting the Alexander Madison stats of like how bad he was in the red zone. And it's like, this is just why, how does this continue to happen? Like, it's incredible.
Vikings run game
but
is
what
just
are your thoughts on
allergic
this
to
one?
the end zone. I think the Vikings run game is allergic to the end zone. That's just kind of what it is. But, I'm with you in terms of where we're at with Cousins. He hasn't been healthy. He hasn't looked great. For me, I've been waiting for Bijan to just like have one of these like pop off games where he really establishes who he is, right? But man, it's so tough when they can't throw the football. And it seems like they pepper in Algier too frequently for my liking still. This is a lot like Arthur Smith still, where I'm like, man, get Algier off the field. Get Bijan 30 touches. Just give that guy the ball. He's like Novocaine. Keep on hitting him. It's gonna work. I'm all about going after Hawkinson though. That seems like a play for me. I love that because the Falcons, not only are they banged up in the secondary, but that linebacking group is not very skilled over the middle of the field. No ball hawks there, and their top 2 or 3 guys are banged up. So yeah, I'm all about the Vikings defense here. I'm all about their passing game. I actually went with Byron Murphy and or Brian Murphy, the corner, for some IDP matchups. So yeah, I'm in on the Vikings this week for sure.
No, Brian Murphy against Drake London will be an interesting matchup. I mean, like I said, I think we were talking about a pre-show. Kirk Cousins was the first quarterbacks in the next gen stat era to not throw a pass over like 30 miles an hour in a dome.
36. Ever. So it's 36 miles per hour. Yeah.
That's just insanely slow. And you can't throw comebacks. Like from an offensive standpoint, what routes can you throw when it's that slow? And it's like a corner route, a post, but you got to float it. And that just sounds awful. That's not what you want. This is a spot where I think they just didn't want their rookie quarterback to go on there. But yeah, stack Vikings, get their defense. Let's go into the next game. No Taysom Hill, which means
Saints Giants.
You got Alvin Kamara chalk. I don't think I can really fade it this time. I've always told myself it's easy to fade Kamara chalk when Taysom Hill's alive. But with Taysom Hill, his knee's dead. I can't justify taking, standing so far away from the Kamara chalk. Kamara is going to catch a ton of passes. This Giants run defense without Dexter Lawrence, it's a joke. They don't have, like, Dexter Lawrence is an elite player, and they're not going to be able to stop him. And like with Clint Kubiak and the Saints offense, like their scheme is good enough to get Kamara the big shot plays. And I think they just activated Kendre Miller. It would be funny to see him steal snaps here, but I don't think he's taking away enough workload from Alvin Kamara.
So I'm actually fading Kamara. I'm not doing it.
Nice.
And so here's why. The Giants, you're right. No sexy Dexy. It's a problem in the middle. However, the Saints guard center guard combinations this year, none of them have been good. They're not particularly good at blocking up the middle. So if you're between the tackles and they want to try and run something inside, forget it. Even the Giants' twos against that group, I feel like it could be a push. And I fully expect the Giants to lock in and engage Kamara and force Derek Carr to beat them down the field with anybody else. Because who's it going to be? Is it Juwan Johnson? Is he even healthy? Because, I mean, you've got, Olave gone,
Marquez
Shaheed
Valdez
gone. It's, Marquez Valdez, Scantling.
That,
he's had, look, MVS is like Santa Claus, okay? It's that time of the year. He shows up once a year, okay? That's what he does. He's done that. We're done with that guy. But the Giants are going to try and lock up Kamara. Let's be clear about the situation. So I expect they'll be good enough to be able to take Kamara away, force Derek Carr into some other plays. That game to me is an absolute disaster show. That's the one I'm staying far, far away from.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can go to anything else. Like, if you're not playing Kamara, I'm not playing Neighbors with, Drew Lock. Like, Tyrone Tracy is fun, but this slate has too many running backs that I would just rather go elsewhere. But I mean, the defenses obviously you can get to. They're pretty exciting against these quarterbacks. But yeah, no, chalk Kamara week
is a 6-3 ball game. It's a 6-3 ball game.
The Raiders Vikings from last year.
Yeah, we don't want this. We don't want it. And I feel where you're at with Kamara. I feel it. I get it. And I'm a huge Kamara fan. I love him. I love him so much. I can't do it. Can't.
No, that's fair. I mean, no, I totally understand it with Kamara. And looking at, the slate, the next chalk running back is the game we're going to go to next. Carolina, traveling to Philly. We were both right on the Bryce Young week. It was really fun for me. Thielen to Bryce helped me take down a ticket. Thielen to Bryce should have caught a touchdown in the first half, which was crazy that wasn't called a touchdown. It really frustrated me. But now you get an interesting game theory play with Saquon Barkley. He's going to be extremely high owned with a lot of these other running backs being available and allowing you to plug in 3 backs, and it's really cheap. And there's some cheap receivers that are available, and we're not going to stop Saquon. We're not. Like the Carolina Panthers, Jadeveon Clowney just got ruled out, and he was probably our best run stuffer, like as wild as that sounds. Our linebacking play isn't great. Our D-line just can't hold block, can't control gaps. Saquon's going to run for 100 yards. Like, that is going to happen. The problem is, does he get the end zone? Because the tush push exists, and at the end of the day, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith can easily, this could be a game where Jalen Hurts gets 2 on the ground and throws 1, and the Eagles win 27-10 against the Panthers. Vegas is telling us it's 30-9 or 16. It's a 45-point over-under, and the Eagles are favored by 13 points. For me, Saquon's a great play. I don't think I'd go, if I don't play Saquon, I heavily consider Jalen Hurts with one of the receivers. I don't go both. You want Jalen to steal rushing touchdowns. And him with Devonta Smith makes a lot of sense. And the only player that I think to run back with the Panthers is Jonathan Brooks. He got an uptick in snaps in back-to-back weeks. He had Chuba fumble. He drafted this guy in the second round. He's a great pass catcher. He was actually looked good catching the football out of the backfield. He's the 4,800 running back, 4,700 running back that I'd rather play because we know we're going to be trailing. Vic Fangio's defense is not built to stop the run. They are built to stop the pass. The NFL just loves passing, and nobody loves committing to the run game. And the Ravens did that to themselves. They did not commit to Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. It was something that they just refused to this is our game plan. They kept trying to throw it, and Lamar was just off. It was a weird game from him last week. So I like Jonathan Brooks, and I like the Eagles for obvious reasons. They're implied 30 points this week. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about this game. I don't like Eagles defense either. I think Bryce is going to take care of the football. He's been pretty good at it in this last few game stretch. Like, he's known where he's wanted to go, and he's been accurate. Are you feeling the same way about this game?
My brain says yes. My heart says no. It's that time of the year where we get those weird little games. Somebody plays spoiler, trap games. It's that, and this feels like the quintessential trap game, right? The Eagles should win. I expect the Eagles to win and to dominate. But this is a Panthers team that's playing with a lot of confidence on both sides of the football right now. That realistically, they should have won last week. It's like there's a couple things out of their control, but you know what? This is an improving football team that's playing with a lot of confidence. The quarterback looks really good. It's like you already alluded to, they protect the football. The Eagles have been a really opportunistic football team in terms of making you pay when you screw up. I do expect the Saquon Barkley big play. I don't know if it's 100 rushing, but I bet it's 150 total yards. I wouldn't be shocked if he caught
Go what?
I was going to say, my thought was that 150 total yards is probably where it's at because he can catch one of those quick little swing routes or an angle route or something, and he's off to the races, right? And that might be the play. It may not be a simple handoff.
His prop right now is 117 over under. It's one of the highest over unders I've seen for a running back. Yeah,
I'm going to take the over.
It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous line, but that's pretty much it that I've got with that game.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add beyond that. It could be a trap. So I wouldn't say if I'm in a max enter, if I'm going to say 20 entry enter on a contest here, I'm not finding 20 different Eagles lineups to run. I probably want to account for the fact that there's going to be some kind of chance that the Eagles could fail here. So, and even if the Eagles fail though, Saquon's safe. So even if you choose not to go after Hurts and a receiver or whatever else, what have you, you could still go after Saquon as a one-off.
For sure. And Saquon, obviously, he's going to be more popular than ownership has him. They've got him at 20%. I think he gets in the 30% range for the bigger contest, and people are just going to find ways to click him into lineups. But moving forward to an AFC North ball game, Cleveland is traveling to Pittsburgh. These teams played 2 weeks ago. Always very strange games when teams played like this, and I don't love this game at all. I know Jerry Jeudy's been spiking lately. He's been phenomenal, and he's 5,700, and he can have a good game. I don't discredit that. He's not having 200 in the Steelers are not going to let that happen. They play way too much cover two. They keep things in front of them. Their pass rush is too elite. Their linebacker play, Peyton Wilson's been playing extremely well lately, making a lot of plays for them, opportunistic plays, and then. On the flip side,
Cam Hayward.
I like Naj at this. Yeah, he was. I mean, he had the big game against Cleveland or Cincinnati too. He's had a lot of big play moments against these divisional games. But as far as the Steelers go, I think Jaylen Warren and Naj could be played. I don't love either of them, but they're fine at their price tags. With no Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore is going to get an uptick in targets. David Njoku is going to be the dominant red zone guy. Both of them are fine plays as well. But other than that, I have no interest. Steelers defense at 3,500, definitely a play against Jameis. Jameis is trying to pray to the Lord to save him from pick sixes, but he hasn't answered that prayer just yet. Anything else you got for this one, Jeff?
I'm sorry. He's not eating W's. He's eating pick sixes. So here's the thing. This is the only game, probably in the entire season, any given slate, where you could realistically play a quarterback, Jameis Winston, and the opposing defense, the Steelers, and have both guys, both players, actually do really well. Because there's a very real chance Jameis could go for 330 and throw 3 touchdowns. But he could also throw a pick six and get sacked 5 times. So, I mean, there's enough there where it's like they could both still pay off. And that would be a really weird lineup. And, and I'm here for it. We talked about it last week. I'm a lunatic. I just want to play weird lineups. I'm into it. And I might do that this week. And so...
You're psycho. I do not want that text when he throws that pick six after throwing for 250 and 3. I can't. Oh, I can't do it.
Where's the Tennessee game at? Hang on a sec. Where's that? Where's Nick Westbrook-Akine? Okay, they're coming up.
We got a game in between them.
Okay, all right. We'll get to them in a bit.
Nick Westbrook-Akine in a little bit, but It's actually funny. Will Levis is getting ownership. We'll talk about that in a few.
Yeah, we'll cover that in a minute. But no, the Steelers Browns. I'm out on the running backs. No thanks. I don't know if I like Najee. I don't like Chubb right now. I don't know if I think I like Warren the most out of them. But you mentioned Judy will be fine, and Njoku's a red zone guy. Moore is going to get the uptick. Like, you've given me the recipe to say Jameis should have 300 plus yards, right? Like, that's the recipe.
I don't know if he has 300. The Steelers will play too slow.
Okay.
I don't think the Steelers will play fast with them. Like, they played fast last week because they kind of had to, throwing the pick six and different things. I don't think they're going to play fast in this game. I mean, could be obviously wrong. Like, they played their first game in freaking 10 feet of snow. That game was awesome.
Right. Yeah.
I just think that in Steelers, the Browns have not beaten the Steelers in Pittsburgh since, who was the quarterback? Bernie Kosar?
I was going to say Kelly Holcomb. I was going to guess Kelly Holcomb or Derek Anderson, but
I'm going to look it up because I saw that stat and I was like, so since I've been alive?
Well, yes. So you look that up.
3.
Who's the quarterback?
3.
Who was the quarterback?
The Browns 03. We got to find it. QB 2003 because they had so many.
They had a bunch.
Oh, it was Tim Couch.
Guess that. I didn't think he ever beat the Steelers.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, fact is, I love Jameis. He's put up a ton of yards. He is a wing and a prayer type player. He's going to rip it, and if he throws a pick, he forgets it. He does not care. And you know what?
No,
I love that in my quarterback. And so give him to me. I am going to 100% have some Jameis lineups, and I am definitely going to pair him with the Steelers defense just to be a psychopath because nobody else will have that combination. I'm here for it.
I cannot recommend that one, but I can recommend the Steelers, Dean. Let's move forward to the next game on the slate. The Raiders traveling to Tampa Bay. Raiders. It's really weird that the Raiders and the Panthers are kind of following each other of like who we've played and who they've played in recent weeks, where Bryce Young had a good game against the Chiefs and I was excited, and then I watched Aiden O'Connell ball against the Chiefs. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Now Aiden O'Connell gets its spot to follow Bryce Young's suit here, and he's actually getting ownership, which is pretty crazy to me. He's like he's probably the 4th highest owned quarterback on the slate, and it's because that 4,800 price tag, and you know where the ball's going. It's Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. They accounted for 65% of the targets last week. Both of them had really good games. They're probably going to have really good games in this one. They're 2 of the higher owned players on the entire slate. I don't think I get here. I think instead of that, I just play the Brock Bowers and Mike Evans mini. I love that mini stack. The Raiders have been a pretty good run defense lately. They don't have a corner who can cover Mike. Mike is fighting for that 1,000-yard year. He needs to average 96 yards for the rest of the season. This could be a game where he creates that wiggle room, give him a $130, 2 touchdowns, because that's very Mike Evans-like. And Brock Bowers follows it up on the other side with an 11 for 125. The player I'm most scared of here is Jacoby Myers, because he being chalk just scares me. He's a very, very talented pass catcher that for PPR just can give you that high floor. And Aiden O'Connell will find ways to get it to him against the Bucs defense that is just not good. Like Tommy Tremble and Adam Thielen went nuts this past weekend against them. Not stopping Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers would make a lot of sense. What are your thoughts on this one?
I love Brock Bowers. I struggle to trust Jacoby Myers, but I'm with you. That Bucs defense, man, that thing is a sieve. There's somebody else is going to catch some passes. And what are your feelings on a guy like Trey Tucker for the Raiders? Maybe I
don't think O'Connell's got the arm.
Okay, fair enough. I was thinking about some quick, get him on some crossers, get him some quicks, and let him run. But okay,
yeah, they put Brock Bowers on those.
That's true. True. I mean, they put him on everything because he's an offensive weapon. I love Brock Bowers. I had a very high grade on him in April. But that's okay. No, I think that's all we need to say on that game. I don't really have anything to add on that one. Because Bucky Irving's hurt, right? He's out. He's
questionable, I think, still. Yeah, he's still, I remember he got hurt bad against the Panthers. Yeah. His injury, he looked like he could limp it. Yeah, well, did you see the running concept they ran? Like the whole line just it was like a duo concept where they all crossed. I don't know
Mhm.
what it was, but it like Liam Cohen said after a game, he's like, yeah, it's something we've been working on. We just felt like this is the time to run it. And like you could see Josie Jewell like follow the guard, shift over, and then see the other guard pulling, and then he shifted over again, and then he was like about to he's like, oh, he's coming here, was running forward, tight end came and clocked him, and then Bucky Irvin broke this 65-yard run against us.
Right, it's cleared him out.
But let's move forward. Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis is another owned quarterback this week. Gross. It's a gross slate to say that Will Levis is popular, I guess.
Dude.
It's because
he's
the
going to get 2
Jaguars are really
touchdowns this
bad.
week.
Yeah,
he's got 2
because
touchdowns.
He's going to throw it to Nick Westbrook-Ikine, who anytime he catches a ball, it's a touchdown. It feels like it's incredible that since we started this show, we're 3 episodes in, and he's had 22, 12, 19. That's just ridiculous to say.
Yep.
Parker Washington and Brian Thomas are 2 guys that I like a lot in this matchup. Parker Washington went crazy last week against the Texans as soon as Mac Jones came in, and Brian Thomas, if they could accurately throw a football to him, he would have had 200 yards last week. He was getting open every single play, it felt like, and it was just like, dude, can we please hit him on one of these deep throws? Besides that, I like Pollard here quite a bit, because if Will Levis and Calvin are going to get a lot of ownership, like, give me the running back that is getting a lot of touches, gets work in the passing game. When they win, like he has 27 carries, 27 touches, 130 yards. He has another game, 31 touches, 154 yards. Like he's very capable of putting up 1-2, which is crazy considering Dallas just let him walk. But other than that, I don't have much to add with this game. Jaguar defense is playable too at 2,600.
Yeah, I mean, out of necessity, I actually had to roster Mac Jones in a league. And strangely enough, I also had to roster Parker Washington. It's the waiver wire is pretty beat up, and I'm hurting in a lot of ways. But I was actually kind of feeling good about the idea of Mac Jones throwing at the Parker Washington here against Tennessee. I'm like, you know what? This game might put up more points than people think. Nick Westbrook-Ikine could go his 4th straight week with a touchdown, which sounds absolutely insane. The guy has – so this is an actual stat here. The guy has 20 receptions on the year. He has 8 touchdowns. What?
It's crazy.
That's stupid. I think he's just doing it to troll you. That's really all it is, because he knows about our DFS conversations. But no, I'm all into actually both sides of this. It's just kind of like a sneaky other game to play. And I'm down if there's a showdown slate for this game. I'm going to go play it because I want to get into that, and I want to mess with Mac Jones. I want to mess around with Parker Washington just for the sake of doing something different. I like to play bizarro, weird stuff because every now and again it hits. And when it does, it feels really good. Full disclosure, it very, very rarely hits. Anyway, why don't we move on to Seattle?
This is a game that I actually love. The 4 p.m. window in total is pretty much where a lot of my lineups will end up being. It's going to be fun to play the 4 p.m. slate too, because I think that it's a very easy slate to stack, and it's not getting as much love as it should. Seattle's traveling to Arizona. The first time they played this game, it was pouring. It was like a rainy Seattle day, really weird weather. Now they're in a dome. Kenneth Walker's not playing, which upgrades Sharps. Sharps is really cheap. He's probably going to get a pretty good ownership as we go into the night. Not sure where it is at the moment, but this is a game where I love Geno Smith. And the reason is when they have lost Kenneth Walker, they throw the ball at rates that are just absurd. And I look at the Cardinals in the first matchup, they couldn't run the ball against them. They did not run it well. And they played just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I expected a big game from Kyler or Marvin Harrison and some of the other things. They really shut each other down, but this game, neither team could run the ball in the first matchup. So I think this game, they're both going to say, screw it, let's throw the ball. We have the weapons to do so. Geno attempted 44 passes and 54 passes in 2 of the first 3 games without Kenneth Walker. And he's coming in at 5,800, 2.8% ownership projected over on RotoGrinders. Give me him, just take DK and JSN or add in Noah Fant and let the lineup go. And on the flip side, The Cardinals are really easy. You just play one of their big three. You do not need to get cute and try to find like the Greg Dortch, the Michael Wilson. Just play one of Marv, Trey McBride, or James McConnell. All three of those guys have pathways to a successful day. Trey McBride's been absolutely incredible, and he killed Seattle their first matchup. He probably does it again. The only problem with Trey McBride, in my opinion, Smart or Brock Bowers is out there, and like it's hard to get both of them in your builds. Paying 2K tight ends, tough to build around, but a Marvin Harrison at 6K, very easy. And I know he didn't have a lot of success, but this time they're at home, they're in the dome, and like Marv is getting open. It's just Kyler and him just haven't been on the same page. Pretty easy game to stack. But what are some of your thoughts with the Cardinal Seattle game? Because two teams playing each other in like 3 week spans are always a strange matchup.
I think Seattle dominates this game. I have this sneaking suspicion that Seattle defense is about to show up in a big way. They have a lot of really underrated players. Ernest Jones comes in early in the season, places Jerome Baker. He's been an absolute stud. He's wearing the green dot there. Tyrese Knight, I think he was like a 6th-round pick or something. This guy was a pretty much unheralded linebacker prospect. He comes in. He's been playing opportunistic football. Against Seattle, he had 9 tackles and a QB hit. He's right there. Gets a fumble, I think, forced last, or maybe his fumble recovered last week. I mean, that guy's all over the field. You got the Jordan Love's looked phenomenal. You got all the speed on the perimeter. They're really rounding into form right now. Fully expect them to shut down Arizona in a statement game here and kind of put the rest of the NFC West on notice that division's probably about a wrap, because that'll put Arizona to 5-6. It'll give Seattle a 2-game lead over Arizona by virtue of them sweeping the season series. And I think at that point, the NFC West is almost a wrap. So Seattle's coming in with a lot on the line. It's going to be Geno. It's going to be JSN. Give me a little DK. Yeah, I'll run it back with one of the Arizona guys because somebody's going to have to catch some passes. I'm staying away from Connor. I probably want either McBride or Harrison. Harrison's cheap enough where I'll take the upside on his talent. Like, they're going to have to figure out a way to get him vertical and just get him the football. It doesn't matter how at this point, just give it to him. But yeah, man, I love that game. I'm with you. Give me all the Geno. I'm down with that. Sharbs is going to be heavily owned. You alluded to not having the percentages yet. We talked pre-show. And I don't think people realize how poorly Charbonnet played early in the year when Geno was out, or when Geno was out, when Kenneth Walker was out. Why don't you give us a little bit of insight there and why maybe we should stay away from Charbonnet in those Seattle builds?
There was a stat about the Seattle running backs where they've been hit behind the line of scrimmage more often than any other running backs in football. Like, the efficiency is not going to be there. It's a matter of, does he fall in the end zone twice? Does he catch 7 passes to make up for that inefficiency? And that's where he's going to be able to make like what he does. That's the tough part about this, like fading him, is he has easy paths to hit value. I don't think you need to fade him from like a Geno stack. Like, Geno can get there with him and DK getting there. And if you think that Seattle's going to dominate, then that makes so much sense, because it's like, hey, Geno gives them, 250, throws for 2 touchdowns. Metcalf has 101, and then Geno runs for a touchdown because he's capable, he's got legs. And then Sharps at the second half, late in the game, is just pounding the rock away. And yes, that they, the Cardinals know they're running it, but he breaks off a run that gets him 120 total yards, and he also finds the end zone late in the game. Like, that can be a very viable stack, and was something probably 3 years ago that worked extremely well with a team like Tennessee. Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and A.J. Brown. That stack was winning GPPs left and right because people were afraid to play Tannehill with Derrick Henry, not realizing Tannehill would be super efficient with passing the ball, and Derrick Henry would still go for the 150 and 2. That's not obviously here, but still a very viable stack. And don't be afraid to play your running back with a quarterback if it makes sense. And this is this case where it does.
Okay, fair enough. So then we stick with a little bit of Sharps at price.
Yes. Speaking of the NFC West and everything got going on, your 49ers are taking on the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears basically fired everybody. Finally done with that, which is cool. You don't really want to be the team playing them after they fire everybody, because it's just like It's always that one week where they get up and play a little bit harder, it feels like. Caleb Williams coming in at 14% owned. Pretty shocking to me. Not because he hasn't played well, because he has lately. Just shocking to me that on the road in a spot where you guys don't have Bosa, their O-line can't block you without Bosa. Like, I know that you guys aren't really getting to the passer, and everybody wants to point to the last few weeks. You guys played the Bills. You guys, like, in the snow game. Like, you played the Packers. Like, you didn't play teams that are, pushovers like the Bears are. Like, the Bears aren't a very good team. I think this is a game where the chalk of the week so far, which I think is going to change a little bit, has been Isaac Guerendo. I am probably going to play him. Jeff, you are the 49ers fan here. Is he avoidable this week at all, or do you just think it's like he's going to get 16 to 18 touches, and the way he hits home runs, it's hard not to play him at the 5,400 price tag?
I think this is the 1 week he gets like 25 plus touches because the other backs in the roster haven't been here long enough to justify giving them enough snaps to get him on the field. I mean, unless the 49ers are getting absolutely boat raced in this game, I don't see any way Guerendo comes off the field. Mason, IR. McCaffrey, obviously IR. Patrick Taylor comes up, but he hasn't played enough meaningful snaps to be useful. And then you go and they grabbed somebody off a practice squad. I forget who else they grabbed. I know Burrito was on the roster for a second. We got some other kind of bottom of the roster kind of, curtain jerker type guys that really haven't played any meaningful snaps all year in this offense. It's really tough for me to get excited about anybody else. Yeah, that's right. Izzy Abiconda for the Jets. That's right. Yep. And so
you have Keyshawn Vaughn.
Keyshawn Vaughn's been with us since the summer, but again, none of those guys have played any meaningful snaps all year. I'm going to go with, if we're going to get a week of Guerendo going absolutely bananas, this is it. And it's not so much the Bears are a total pushover, but he's going to require the touches, and there's not a lot of backs around the league that run sub 4.4 that are 220 pounds. You've got Isaac Guerendo, and you've got Jonathan Taylor. Maybe Bijan Robinson, end list. Like, I think that's your list. So the home run capability is there. Shanahan's going to have something schemed up for him. Purdy's been nicked up. You have no Trent Williams. It's not going to be easy for us to drop back and pass with Montez Sweat screaming off the edge. I'm lining up all the Guerendo. Give him to me.
Yeah, I love the sound of that. Guerendo is definitely just the home run hitter, and it's also he's fresh. He's not beaten up this time of the year. A lot of backs that have that long speed tend to get a little too worked, and it turns into them not having the efficient games as we end the season. Some obviously just get stronger in December, like Derrick Henry, but Guerendo will be interesting. The Bears' run defense has also been bad. The one question I have, because for me, data-wise, I think Keenan Allen is a good run back. I feel like your corners match up well here. It's weird because the Bears are very talented, but you have the quarterback that's holding the ball so long and not someone that reads coverages very well. And like, you guys are very good at jumping routes when a quarterback is bad at that. So I've been shying away from playing the Bears receivers, but all of them are getting some ownership. So who would you be playing between DJ Moore, Keenan, Dunze?
Ooh. I mean, DJ Moore's probably going to be catching Ward for most of the game.
Yeah. Oof. That's what I'm saying. Like Ward, and then you have Lenore on Keenan.
Yeah, Lenore's been nicked, though, a little bit. He's been missing snaps here and there, and he's been battling injuries. So I'm kind of like, Keenan Allen is the kind of route runner that might be able to take advantage of Lenore a little bit while he's a little walking wounded. Here's the big question. Hufanga's off the IR. He was labeled as questionable as of today. If he plays, the complexion of the defense is completely different than it was yesterday. If he plays, I don't want any of the receivers. What I might actually want is Cole Kmet. Because what they may be able to do is get Hufanga putting pressure on Caleb Williams instead of letting him cover down the field. And now we run into a situation where Caleb's got to get rid of it more quickly than he would like to. And I think that's where Kmet comes into play. For me, I think it's Allen and then Kmet. But a lot of this is going to hinge on where Hufanga is come game day for me.
Yeah, if you're telling me that Caleb wants to get rid of it quicker, then I'm going to play the 49ers defense. That's just not a thing that's going to happen this year. It's just Thomas Brown can do what he wants. Thomas Brown's also coming down from the booth to the field. It's a weird thing going on with the Bears. They have low coaches. Like they don't have a lot of coaches anymore, which is right. A recipe for disaster. But let's move forward to my favorite game of the week that's not getting any love for God knows why. The Bills are taking on the Rams. Josh Allen's coming in at 2% ownership. Yes, Saquon's incredible. Josh Allen's in the midst of an MVP run, playing in his first game in a dome in God knows how long, on top of a very bad Rams defense that also can put up points on offense. I am game stacking this, whether it's Josh Allen, mainly Josh Allen with Amari Cooper as my 1A, 1B there, because Amari Cooper hasn't played much, but I don't really care if he's playing in 10 feet of snow. Like, a guy who's coming back with this wrist injury and everything else, like, give me the game in a dome. Give me the game in good weather where Josh Allen gets to just play nice, not the freaking 6 feet of snow and playing 60% of the routes. He's 5,100 this week. He's getting 1% ownership based on RotoGrinders projections. He's 5K that allows you to play the 8K Josh Allen, and then the run backs are simple. You play Puka or Cooper Kupp, and you play Kyren Williams. Like, this is an easy game stack that this game can easily shoot out because Matt Stafford has been one of the best quarterbacks against zone coverage. That's all the Bills do. He doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns. He's just hyper efficient, which means Cooper Kupp and Puka are going to be averaging, getting a lot of yards per route run, getting a lot of receptions, targets. And we have seen good running schemes kill the Bills every time they get a chance. Jonathan Taylor had 115 yards in the first half against them like 3 weeks ago. Derrick Henry ran for like 280 yards. Kyren can have a game where he runs for $150 and 2. Like, this is, to me, my favorite game of Slate. I love it so much, and I will gladly take the low ownership and play Josh Allen this weekend.
I'm with you on all parts of this. The only thing I would caution people on is the Kyren Williams bit. The Buffalo Bills, when they allowed those huge games, were without Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, and the number 3 linebackers, so they couldn't do anything at the second level. They were basically lining up practice squad level players. Since then, Terrell Bernard's been back, and he has been brilliant. Matt Milano came back 2 weeks.
We just played Puka.
Hell yeah, give me Puka all day. I'm just saying the Kyren Williams 150 and 2, like he's going to run through the Bills defense. I'm like, hey, context matters. Let's maybe dial that down a little. But give me Josh Allen 100%.
Hold on. I'm looking at something because I'm pretty sure Matt Milano was on
Matt Milano's been dead. He was out with a torn pec. He tore it in the preseason.
Not this. Yeah, Matt Milano was on the field when Derrick Henry went bonkers the first time. I don't know.
Was that 2023? Oh, okay, I was going to say.
No, it was 2021.
Okay, I was going to say. I was like, Matt Milano hasn't played in like 2 years. The guy's been...
No, he's barely played. No, I know he's barely played. Yeah. I just know that their run defense, like, it's they know. I agree that Terrell Bernard is a huge difference. I was like, Matt Milano, he was one that he was getting... If you run duo, he was having problems shedding that block. And teams were teamed.
Yeah, well, he's Bernard a speedier coverage. Maker, right, yeah. Agreed. The other thing, the Amari Cooper bit, I love because Josh Allen owes Amari Cooper a touchdown. The little pitch touchdown that we saw the other night, yes. The little, hey, I've got it. Here, Josh, you run it in. He owes Amari a touchdown now. I'm just saying, it's so I feel like Josh is that kind of teammate where he's going to get him that this week. He's going to find a way to take advantage. But let's not sleep on that Rams defense, though. There's some good players up front. They've looked really good across the board.
No, but if you're telling me Josh Allen's taking sacks, more yards.
Right. Well, I don't know that he'll take a ton of sacks. He'll get sacked typical, 3 times, 4 times. I don't think we're going to see 7 sacks. I don't think it's not going to be anything crazy.
Pressure leads to scramble. Pressure leads to scramble. Scramble means Josh Allen rushing. And then, or deep throws off of them. The broken plays where it's Mac Hollins on the other end. I don't really care. It doesn't to me, I look at this slate. We talked about quarterback. You got excited for Jameis a little bit. Other than that, we didn't like any of the quarterbacks that much. There's not
Yeah,
many,
you're
like,
right.
people are playing Will Levis and Caleb Williams right now. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That, like, Caleb Williams and Will Levis are coming in 6 times more owned than Josh Allen. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you know
because
what?
of Saquon.
Yeah. Let's eat the salary. Go get Josh Allen. I might 100% Josh Allen if I'm not. I got to have some Jameis. I can't do it. I got to have some Jameis. I'm going to
No, yeah, you
50%
could play
Josh
some
Allen.
Jameis, but yeah.
50% of my lineups love Josh Allen. The other 50 are going to have Jameis because I'm a crazy person and I got to have that kind of insanity in my life.
Yeah. So you're wild. But anyways, that is it for episode 3 of the Gridiron Minds podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Vanek. You can find me over on Twitter at Jordan Vanek DFS. As always, I'm joined by my lunatic co-host, Jeff DiMatteo, who wants to be playing Jameis Winston in a lot of lineups this weekend. Like a psychopath, and Jameis Winston will throw for like 250 and 3. And I will get a text because every time I've told him that's a crazy play. That play usually hits. When it doesn't, it's usually when I get convinced into playing it. I'm not getting unconvinced on
Don't
Josh
you do
Allen
it.
this week. I am playing Josh Allen. That is the guy I'm stacking. I will probably lean more towards the Puka Nacua and just getting the other running backs. Like, I'm going to try to find Saquon in my lineup. I'm going to try to find getting the top tier guys and do it. It's going to be tough. There's not a lot of great value at receiver, but there are a lot of great values at tight end and a lot of great values at running back that can make the salary work. But Jeff, do you have anything else before?
No, man, I'm excited we had a chance to talk about some of these games. I'm thrilled about some of the values. I think getting to Saquon and Josh Allen's going to be easy enough if you want to dig in that 5,000 space for enough of those receivers and other backs, etc. I just want to wish everybody great luck this week. It's kind of that last week, right? We're getting into fantasy playoff season, things like that. Really hoping if you're watching, if you're tuning in, that you're making the playoffs, and looking forward to seeing you next week.
Well, have a good one, guys. See ya.